And Francisco, I could.
Okay, so now I have to put record. Okay, Parshas Vayera, second Aliyah, Perek Yud Ches, Psukim Tes Vav through. How far does it go? It goes from Tes Vav all the way to Lamed Gimel. Okay, page 80 in the Chumashim. Instead of just reading these psukim, let me give you a quick overview, and then we will begin studying what Rav Soloveitchik has to say. And it's a fascinating, I think it's fascinating comments, observations that are so crucial to our lives to this very day. Avram tries to save Sodom, which is the second Aliyah, better known as Bingo, right? He offers first 50, and then 45, then 40, right? He gives numbers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Will you not save if there are 50 tzaddikim, etc., etc.? Do understand why in the world does Avram feel a responsibility to save Sodom? These were wicked people, and they typified the antithesis of everything that Avram represented. And in answering this question, so why does Avram so motivated? He's driven. In answering this question, the Rav demonstrates that the story of Sodom is totally connected with the first story of the Parsha, which we studied previously. And the first story of the Parsha is the visit of the three angels in the images of men, right? Those three angels, that story is connected with this story. Along the way, the Rav is going to note how the Torah gives us an inside glimpse into who Avram really was and what his message to us is to this very day. And it also, the Rav is going to demonstrate that in this Aliyah, in Sheni and Vayera, we have fundamental concepts, foundational concepts that Judaism teaches to this very day. Okay, so that's the story. The story is, again, you remember, the three angels visit Avram. That was the first Aliyah. The second Aliyah is two of those angels go on to Sodom, correct? Two angels go on to Sodom. Their mission is to save Lot and to destroy Sodom. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is now sending these two angels, and he says, God talking, revealing his thought process, if you will, and he says, can I hide anything from Avram? I better tell Avraham, right? I better tell Avraham what I'm up to. And he does. He tells Avram, can I cover up? Don't I have to be transparent with Avram? And he shares with Avraham. And while he shares with Avram, he tells us why he has a unique relationship. God talking. Why do I have a unique relationship with Avram? And he tells us that in Pasuk Yud Ches, correct? The Abraham in Pasuk Yud Ches, we're going to study it. Avram, Pasuk Yud Tes. Pasuk Yud Tes, page 82. Ki yedativ l'man asher yitzav es bonav es beiso acharav v'shamru derech Hashem la'asot tzedakah u'mishpat l'man havi Hashem al Avram es asher diber olav. Here, this pasuk describes in Pasuk Yud Tes, in Pasuk 19, for I have loved him because he commands his children and his household after him that they keep the way of Hashem, doing charity and justice, in order that Hashem might then bring upon Avraham that which he had spoken to him. I have a unique relationship with Avraham, and that's the reason. But we're going to see, and then Avraham is told that Sodom is going to be destroyed, right? That's the plan. And then Avraham doesn't take it seated, right? He argues with God. He says, with God, the God of justice and morality, would you kill an entire community if there were 50 tzaddikim in the town, if there are 45 tzaddikim in the town, etc., down to 10. Okay, let's begin studying the psukim the way the Rav understands it. Again, what is the major concern that Rav Soloveitchik has to deal with is what motivates Avraham to argue for saving Sodom when Sodom is the antithesis to everything that he stands for. So take a look at Pasuk Yud Zayin. Here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, Pasuk Pasuk Yud Zayin, I'm sorry, in page 80. V'Hashem Amar Hamachaseh Ani me'Avram Asher Ani Oseh. Shall I conceal? Shall I not be transparent with Avram? I'm going to have to tell him what I am doing. The three angels appeared to Avram, right? Back at the beginning of the Parsha. Three angels. Each had a different mission, and each had a different message for Abraham. So Rashi explains, why do we need three? Wouldn't have there just been one? One with all three messages and all three missions, and one would have taken care of everything. In other words, let the one person, it didn't need three visitors. One visitor would have been sufficient. In other words, an angel, we're told, can't do that. What does Rashi tell us? Rashi says an angel has one mission, has one message. That's all he can do. He cannot multitask. Multitask is left to humanity. It's not angelic. That is not an angel's trait. That's a human trait. Each one has to have one mission, one message. So let's remember what the missions were. Angel 1 announced the coming birth of Yitzchak. That was Angel 1. Angel 2 was assigned to the destruction of Sodom. And Angel 3, he came to heal Abraham because Abraham was healing after the circumcision. If one were to analyze those three missions that I just described to you, what would you say unites all three? Or certainly two of them. Two of them, what would you say unites two of them? We would realize logically that they're associated with Abraham. But one isn't. Right. Which one? So again, remember the missions. Angel announcing birth of Yitzchak, angel healing Abraham. Those are Abraham connected. And then the third, destroy Sodom. What does this destroy to Sodom have to do with the other two?
Why did you need two angels to go to Sodom?
Why do you need two angels? So one is this. So Chazal say the same angel that cured Abraham, he's a curing angel. So he's going to save Lot. It's like the same thing, right? Saving a human life. Okay, fine. But if you analyze them, two out of the three are connected with Avram. Sodom's destruction is not connected with Avram. What does that have to do naturally with the other two? And the Rav notes that the destruction of Sodom was totally connected with the announcement of the birth of Yitzchak. All three are associated with Abraham. The birth of Yitzchak represents the continuity of Abraham's heritage, Abraham's Mesorah, everything that Abraham stands for. Yitzchak is the person that's going to continue that heritage. Sodom contradicts everything that Abraham taught. I'll quote the Rav. These are the words of the Rav. Abraham preached equality, kindness, charity, hospitality. Sodom scoffed at these ideas. As long as Sodom prospered, Abraham's doctrines, sermonizing and preaching meant nothing. Abraham couldn't get off the ground with a Sodom being at his side, if you will. One cannot preach goodness and kindness if the kingdom of evil is rich and powerful. One cannot gain converts for an idea if its opponents prosper. If they are strong, respected, and feared, then you can't be successful. So the Rav understands the destruction of Sodom and the birth of Yitzchak go hand in hand. They're connected. Yitzchak is the continuity of Abraham only if Sodom is destroyed. In light of this, we can now appreciate when the angel informed Abraham that Sarah was going to give birth to a Yitzchak, that Abraham's mission would have continuity. Another angel logically had to come and inform him that their powerful opponent, namely Sodom, would be destroyed, and thereby allowing Abraham to be successful. That's what the Rav is noting. Only with this knowledge could Yitzchak have a chance to carry on and to perpetuate Abraham's dynasty. With Sodom out of the picture, only then Abraham and Yitzchak could be successful. That is why the angel who was in charge of destroying Sodom came together with the other two angels, the one to cure Abraham and the one to announce Yitzchak's birth. Are they logically connected? Rabbi Soloveitchik clearly notes that they are. So then, okay, now we understand the connection between the two stories, right? This story of this destruction of Sodom goes hand in hand with the opening story of the Parsha, namely the three angels visiting Avram, because you can't have Avraham succeed if Sodom is in his backyard. Bottom line, you can't have goodness succeed if evil is successful. So then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in Pasuk Yutes, am I going to be able not to share what I'm planning to do with Sodom with Avram? Why? What is so unique about Avraham? So he says, Pasuk Yutes, what one must ask when he reads this story is, what is about Avraham that makes him unique in God's eyes? What is so special about Avraham? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us in this pasuk. But I want us to analyze what is happening in this pasuk. What is so special that Hashem has a unique relationship with Avraham? And we must wonder why God felt he had to be totally open with Avraham about Sodom. He couldn't do it without telling Avraham first. Come on. What did Avraham do to earn that special relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? That's really the question that hovers over this entire story. And that Torah outlines exactly what's unique about Avraham. What's unique about Avraham is, first and foremost, how would you describe Avraham based upon this pasuk? If you had to describe in your own words, and I give you a piece of paper and a pen, and I said, here, describe the unique relationship. Who is our a teacher par excellence, right? Avraham is the teacher. He must be first and foremost the teacher. In order to do that, Avraham had to be a teacher that is teaching.
I like it straight too.
I'm going to mute everyone. Okay. Okay. Avraham has to be able to teach everyone the role of the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what Avraham is doing. Avraham, the teacher, had a goal. What was the goal? It's this pasuk. L'man asher yitzaveh es banav. He taught his children a certain way of life. What was that way of life? How would you describe? Okay, we described how the Torah describes Moshe Avraham. Avraham's the teacher. Avraham's the influencer, right? But what did he teach? What was he teaching his children? The Rav explained, Avraham taught them that there is a covenant between us and Hashem. The relationship with Hashem has to be grounded in one word called mitzvah. What does mitzvah mean? The Rav quotes the Rambam that, you want mitzvah, it's tzivui. What is tzivui? It's if a person leaves a will and testament. What's that called? A tzavah. It's the same concept. The covenant is a will and testament. In other words, I would call it a different word. I would call it responsibility. We have a responsibility in our relationship with Hashem. We have to act a certain
Is Rabbi Muskin on mute for others?
Yeah, he's on mute. You're on mute. Can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So the bottom line, this pasuk is describing Avram as the influencer and the teacher, and it's describing the special relationship that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Avram is teaching his children and his followers that we have a will and testament. We have a responsibility in relationship to Hashem, and likewise, Hashem is going to treat us accordingly, if you will. What was the will and testament, or what was the covenant that we have with Hashem? But before we even describe that, the Rav stops for a half a minute and he says, 1 second, don't think that Avraham is only talking to his children, to his family. And no, Banov doesn't mean biological children. Banov, he quotes the Rambam, Banov means all of the followers that Avram had influenced. And the Rambam says they were in the Abraham was an enormously successful influencer and teacher. He was the first, right? Baal Tshuva movement, if you will, right? He was there. He was a majestic individual. He was charismatic. Everybody came to him. He created a community based on a teacher-student relationship. And Yitzchak became not only his biological son, but his student par excellence. And Yitzchak is going to create, just like his father, the community called the Mesorah. So Avram is now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, why do I have a special relationship with Avram? Because Avram understood that he was going to influence the world and teach them the unique relationship that we have. It's called a bris, it's called a covenant, it's a will and testament, if you will, it's responsibility. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in relationship to us, responds accordingly. The Rav notes, go back in this parsha, take a look on page 80, Pasuk Tez Zayin, verse 16, right? Pasuk Tez Zayin, Vayakumu misham ha'anashim, Vayashkifu apnei Sidon, va'Avraham holech imam l'shalcham. So the men got up from there. Who were the men? The angels, right? They gazed towards Sodom, while Avram walked with them to escort them. That's Pasuk 16. Now jump to Pasuk Chav Beis. Vayifnu misham anashim ve'elchu Sodoma. It's a repeat of the same thing. And these gentlemen, these angels, we know them as angels. Avram thinks that they are men, right? Avram escorts them. Once again, it says they get up and they leave, and Abraham is escorting them. Why do we have the repeat with, right, 16? And you, I'm sorry?
It's not the same. One of them they looked at, the Bayashkifu.
Yeah,
Look,
but
the other
they're-
one they walked.
Yes, but they're going to Sodom. And in between, you have these psukim, these middle psukim. Why these middle psukim between these bookmarks? Why? These middle psukim describe how Avram had a unique relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, based on the fact that he taught his family and his students that they had to act according to a special covenant of morality. Why did the Torah write this story in this fashion? Because it is teaching us that we have a unique role to play. We have to teach the world the covenant of morality. Furthermore, we must wonder why the angel who was instructed with the mission to destroy Sodom had to first come to Avram's tent. Why couldn't the angel who was instructed to go destroy Sodom, why did he have to first go? Remember, I connected at the very beginning of the shir, I connected the story of the beginning of the parsha with this story. Why does the angel who's going to go destroy Sodom, why does he have to first go to Avram's tent? Why does he have to visit Avram's tent? He could have gone straight to
I
Sodom.
have to know why he was going to.
Exactly. When he saw Avraham and his tent, he realized it is possible in this world to create a community of followers who believe in a covenant of morality, of justice. Once he saw that, he knew it was possible. And Sodom was the total contrast. Sodom decided, opted out not to follow that kind of a lifestyle. Correct? They were just the opposite. First, the Malach had to see, tell me, on this earth, Is it possible to have a community who follow a covenant of morality? Avram demonstrates, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then you can go on to Sodom and say, Sodom is the antithesis. That's why it can't exist in this world. But what was it that Avram taught his family and community? The answer is not monotheism. The Rav notes this quite often in numerous places. Avraham was not the originator of monotheism. If you're writing a paper on who Avraham is, do not include, Rabbi Soloveitchik says, the one who taught the world the monotheistic deity. That is wrong, because we know Noach believed in one God, Cain Va'aver believed in one God. There were others that preceded Avraham and they were teaching and propagating the idea of a monotheistic idea. You know what Avraham taught? And this is a brilliant insight of the Rav. The Avraham taught the world kavod habrios, the dignity of the human being. Every one of us is uniquely a dignified creature that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. Avraham became the exemplar of teaching staka umishpat. What's staka and mishpat? Staka and mishpat means humanity is a dignified creature. Humanity can be righteous. Humanity can be pious. Humanity is caring for everyone else. This whole chapter began with the test of Avram to see if God, remember, how does the parsha start? You know what the parsha starts with? It was a test in Avram. It was one of the 10 tests. What was the 10 tests? God appears to Avram b'nevuah. Hashem wanted to see, was Avram going to put him on hold to take care of 3 strangers? Does Avram demonstrate the epitome of kavod habrios, of the dignity of humanity, or not? Right? This pasuk demonstrates the operative words. And this pasuk, Rav Soloveitchik says, is 3 words: la'asos derech Hashem. We are not talkers. We're not preachers. We're doers. We la'asos derech Hashem. And what's derech Hashem? Unity of mind. By the way, the Rav notes it's enshrined in halacha. Halacha requires that if I'm in the middle of Kriyat Shema and somebody comes over and greets me, what do? I stop and I receive the greeting. Yeah. I respond. If I'm in the middle of Kriyas HaTorah and somebody stops and says hello, what do? I stop and I say hello. The Rav says, in other words, kavod habrios was enshrined into halacha. It becomes who the Jew represents. But in Boston, the stories were well known that Rav Soloveitchik, even if he's in the middle of Kriyas Shema, there was a girl in the community with Down syndrome, and she inevitably would walk into the Beis Medrash in Maimonides. My uncles told me they sat right behind the Rav. Some uncles saw this